Welcome back to Overtime here on WOTM. Mark, let's switch gears over to the Atlanta Braves. It's been a couple of weeks since we checked in with this ball club. They're a few games away from the end of the regular season. They still sit in first place, which is the only thing that matters as of right now as far as getting into the playoffs. What have you seen of this team? They have held the lead for the better part since the All-Star break, since getting it. They really haven't relinquished it. What have you seen from this club as they inch closer to the World Series?
Starting August 1st, they were 5 games out of first place behind the Mets. Then they wind up taking over by 5 games by the end of the month.
Right.
And they've just basically held on to that lead since then. Now, they haven't played as consistent the last maybe 2 weeks as they did for the first half of August, but they're starting to round into form. A lot of that has to do with their starting pitching being better, their bullpen. When they made that trade for Rodriguez at the trade deadline, I think a lot of that helped guys like Will Smith and Luke Jackson fall into their comfortable spaces. And obviously the trades they made offensively with Rosario and Duvall and Soler have really helped them. We'll be able to see that through a graphic a little bit later. But I think those are the reasons why the Braves are the team to beat in the National League now. Definitely in the National League East. I don't know about if they're going to be able to beat the Dodgers.
Right.
But remember last year, a Brave team that probably you would look at on paper because they had Acuna and Ozuna and say they were better because of those 2 players. They were 1 game away from beating the Dodgers,
right.
And they weren't able to complete the job. However, I think this year, when you look at how their lineup works out, especially now if they're going to institute Soler into the leadoff spot, which I think is perfect for him and takes advantage of a lot of his skills, because you can't have Albies there. He just doesn't walk enough. And everyone else, like Freeman, you need him lower in the lineup. You don't want to
get guys on base in order to get him in.
Yeah, I mean, he's a run producer. You don't want him up there batting first. So, and even like a Swanson, he's really produced offensively, I think, this year. So Soler is a perfect fit, a guy who has power, a guy who can get on base. On-base percentage over 350, I think is going to work out really well for Atlanta. Then you can move Freeman into number 2, which he's been very good at this year, which he was when Acuna got hurt. And then Albies can bat 3rd or 4th.
Right.
And then Austin Riley, again, has been outstanding this year. The Braves infield, all of them are guys that are legit 30 home run threats. Could be the first time in Major League history that you have a whole infield hitting 30 home runs. So I think those types of things have shown why Atlanta is the best team in the division. Definitely better than the Mets and the Phillies. The Mets really have fallen on their face.
Right.
And the Phillies, you kind of got the feeling when they were pushed by Atlanta and when push came to shove, the Phillies wouldn't be able to hold up to what Atlanta does. They're just not good enough.
Right.
They have good starting pitching. They do not have a good bullpen. The difference in the National League East this year has been the Braves' ability to close out some of these games. The Mets and one-run games have been awful, like 2-14 of the last 16 one-run games. The Braves have been just about 500 or over 500. We had recognized how poorly they were doing early in the year in extra inning games and in games decided by 1 run. So I think for them, the fact that they've gotten better at those 2 things have really helped them in taking over this division.
They're 79-70 right now, still in first place on a 3-game winning streak, 11 games left in the season. The magic numbers is 10 over the Phillies, 6 over the Mets. They got 2 games in Arizona, 3 games in San Diego, 3 games in Philadelphia, 3 games against the Mets. According to you, what is maybe a magic number they need to hit as far as wins go in order to carry momentum? Not necessarily to get the other teams out. We know what they need to do mathematically in order to get in. But what are some of the things that you need to see in order for them to get into the playoffs with the juice in order to make a run?
Well, I think you need to see the type of consistency you see from some of the players. I'm not concerned about how many wins they wind up with. I think they're going to win a division. The magic number is 10 over the Phillies and 6 over the Mets. So I think that's going to take care of itself. If you look at the graphics that we provided, their starting pitching, they need to have a guy step up and be the leader. This, to me, has got to be Max Fried, if not Charlie Morton. Fried has really stepped out the last 9 starts, 5-0 with an ERA of 1.71, a very good whip, allowing less than a base runner an inning. Guys aren't hitting him. And one of the things Chris Bryant of the Giants says is there is now a 25-mile-an-hour difference between curveball and his fastball.
Right.
That is devastating for a major league batter to see. Another thing is one of the trade pieces that they got at the deadline was Eddie Rosario. Rosario didn't play a lot early on, but he's a guy that had over 100 RBIs with the Indians a couple years ago. He's a very productive player, and we've seen here in the last 8 games, 379, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, and a very high OPS. So as he gets to play, Rosario is starting to contribute more and more. Then you look at what all 3 guys have contributed since the trade deadline. I can't say enough. Remember I had said, but maybe Atlanta can look into getting Duvall early in the year when something happened to Ozuna. Duvall's going to wind up leading the National League in RBI, so he should at least. 15 homers, 39 RBI since coming to Atlanta. Soler, 11 homers, 24 RBI since coming to Atlanta. Rosario, in just a short span that he's played, 6 home runs, 12 RBIs. All in all, between the 3 of them, 32.75, OPS 937. Who you like?
Exactly.
Wouldn't you say?
Right. Oh, no doubt. And you knew that they needed to pick up that production. You didn't know how they were going to do it, but give credit to the Braves. They found a way to come out and really make I think, number one, a big statement in the league, but also come out and say, hey, we're going to be buyers here at the trade deadline. And it really worked out in their favor. And I think with 11 games left, they're in a really, really comfortable position. That's a really dynamic part of it, what they did at the trade deadline, and then what they were able to kind of reap from it, essentially what you were going to be able to get, maybe even a little bit better with your all-star and your best player out right now. Well, coming up next here on Overtime, we will have our picks for the college football playoff, or the college football games coming up this week. We'll let you know where we sit so far. We'll make our picks for this week. We'll also talk a little NFL football for week 3 coming up next.